So upon first inspection of this, we can obviously see there's been some water damage on the cover. This is a paper cover, it's not actually made with book cloth, so it's much easily damaged, sun damaged. When you get water on it, you can see that it's ripped a little bit, and obviously it just makes it easier to tear along the hinges. So we're going to restore it by using a book cloth, so that way this book can last a lot longer. And obviously you can see paper bleeds a lot more with the dyes. So that's another reason why we're going to be using book cloth for this work. And we're going to also try and restore the spine. So I'm going to be doing the foil again. And just trying to really keep the love that's been put into this book. It's a little water damaged, so I'm going to put it in the press as well, just to give it that evenness again. You can also see that the end bands, they've kept in pretty good condition on the top, but on the bottom you can see that they're coming off and the glue is actually separating from the end band. So we're going to completely strip the spine, apply a new mole, and also apply new end bands to this one. It doesn't look like the glue itself on the spine has actually been damaged. As you can see, the paper is still very much intact there and it's still connected to the glue. It's more just those end bands that need replacing. So the first step, I'm going to be removing the cover and the spine. I don't actually want to remove this end paper, I will be removing this one, just because the first page, it's been slightly damaged and it is attached to that end paper, and I don't want to risk ruining that at all. When it comes to removing the cover, I'm going to be using a blade. Now, if your blade isn't sharp, you'll want to replace them. Mine's actually in pretty good condition, so I'm happy using it, but because this is such a precious book, we don't want to risk dulling anything, so we're going to be using a very sharp blade for this one. And it looks like someone's already attempted to make a cut here, so we're just going to complete that. There we go. So on this one, just because I don't want to damage the pages at all. So just slowly glide to remove that cover. Doesn't matter how long it takes or how many strokes. You can see that the tape that was put on it has actually taken off that foil. And because, as I said before, it was done on paper, if I put any tape on it, just even normal tape, it will just come off. So that's another reason why we're probably going to have to use a book cloth, so this will really stand the test of time. So the bookmaker actually hasn't glued the spine to the mull. As you can see when you open the book, it separates, so there's that gap there, which makes it a lot easier, because otherwise we'll have to deconstruct the whole spine if it was attached. So what I'm going to be doing first is I'm going to very carefully try and make an incision down here. And because it is paper, I'm hoping that it's just going to come off like that. That's perfect. You don't want to go too deep, because I really do not want to destroy that. Look at that mole. That's really old. You can see the water damage there. It's been taken to the beach. There's a lot of sand in there. You can really tell the whole story that this person has taken this book throughout their lives. I'm just going to carefully ease it off. There we go. So they haven't used a Japanese or a thread mull. They've actually used a paper mull, it looks like. So sort of like a craft paper, we would call it today, which is quite interesting. So we're going to remove that and apply our own one. as I was stripping away more of that mull, you can see these 2 pages, they've really started detaching. So to save that, I'm going to make a line down there to keep it as straight as possible so I can attach them again. There we go. So I'll be attaching that later, just keep it to the side. I'm now in the process of just stripping away that glue layer. It's really aged over time, so it is quite easy to just pick and peel off, and you can see that the signatures are now becoming visible. If you're finding stripping the glue away really hard, really avoid scraping it off with something sharp because it's so easy to damage the pages. If you have a spatula or a picking tool, try and use them and just gently ease the glue off. It's much safer, especially if it's dull. You don't want one sharp or picking the glue away like that. Once I've stripped away the bulk of the glue from the spine, I'm going to put it into the press and prepare to glue and secure the spine. If you don't have an actual book press, you can do what I do and just grab 2 wooden chopping boards. These are bamboo chopping boards I just found at the $2 shop, and 2 G clamps or F clamps that you can get at any hardware store, and you'll get a pretty good result with them. I try to leave 0.5mm of the text block exposed out of the press, and I spend a lot of time trying to adjust the boards to make sure as evenly as I can humanly get it. After I've made sure the text block is evenly in the press, I'm going to cut the end bands to size. I'm using a sand coloured end band as it was the closest one I could find to the original end bands of the book, and I want to try and keep the original character that the book had. For this bind, I'm going to add 2 layers of mull to make sure the very old spine remains secure and straight. The first layer of mull I'm cutting to make the exact width of the spine so there is minimal overlap. And as always, I'm using pH neutral archival glue and a silicone spatula to apply it. After applying the first layer of glue and the end bands, I will apply the first layer of mull. Applying 2 layers isn't necessary at all for normal binds, but if you have a very old book or the spine looks a bit out of shape, you can always apply 2 layers just to give it an extra bit of security. We're then going to apply the second layer of mull, which is going to have around 3 to 4 centimeters overlap over the text block. After all that, we're going to let the text block dry overnight. After letting it dry, I'm going to press it again for a second time to try and fix some of the water damage the pages went through over the years. I made sure to press it with 4 clamps to give it a really good chance of straightening out and left it for around 12 hours. As you can see, it is much flatter after the second press. I am now going to reattach those 2 pages I took off earlier. I'm going to do this the same way I would attach any normal end paper, using a strip of washi tape to create a straight line and a small amount of pH neutral glue. After that, I'm going to start cutting out my end papers, making sure they are the same width and length of the text block. The paper I'm using is 170 GSM cream paper. If you're wondering why I'm using washi tape, it's because washi tape is typically low tack, so it won't tear the paper when you pull it off. Having the end papers applied on a straight line of glue always helps to give it a professional look, and also helps to secure the pages evenly to the book. I'm then going to begin measuring for the front and back cover. When making a book cover, you have to keep in mind what your hinge width is going to be. Since mine is going to be 1 centimeter, any width I make the front cover will have roughly a 1 centimeter added to its width. So I'm going to make my width for the front and back cover the same length of the text block, meaning that there will be an overhang of just under 1 centimeter, which is how I usually like to present my books. And I'm going to make the height of my covers 1 centimeter longer than the text block is, which means there will be half a centimeter overhang on the top and the bottom. The bookboard I'm going to be using is 2.4 millimeters thick and is archival quality, so it will help this book really stand the test of time in the future. For the spine, I am using a lighter board. It's a 1000 GSM craft board. I like to use a lighter board for the spines as it helps the spine stay flexible over time. And I'm going to cut it to the width of the spine of the text block and the height of the board I just cut. So this is the spine board. I always put it up against the text block to make sure it's not too short or the text block isn't exposed over the board. It seems to be the perfect height and width, so I'm pretty happy with it. If you want to see part 2 of the tutorial where I go over the cover making process and finishing off the book, go over to my Patreon where this video is up now for tier 2 and above. And thank you again to my tier 3 lilies for your support on my Patreon. Feel free to leave a comment on this video if you have any questions, and I'll see you in my next tutorial.